easier. I'll just have to let you.
There we go.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the October 14th midday meeting of the Rotary Club of Rochester. I'm Audrey Betcher, the president of your club. To get things started, Merlin will lead us in the four-way test.
I think it would be appropriate to stand. We probably, in all the
Things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you, Merlin. All right, Carol Weigel will provide a reflection today. You're going to want to go on the other way. Yeah.
I don't want to trip over that. Thank you very much.
Okay, today's reflection is relatively short, but it's my hope that as you ponder the quotations, you think about how each of us identify our own obligation to make these a reality in our Rotary lives. Being a Rotarian has many advantages, and these lead to many opportunities. I perused my compendium of quotes that resonated with me and have been useful over the years to illustrate how Rotarians have embraced both the advantages and opportunities. The first one, giving allows you to be a blessing to others. Second, people who make a difference are not only those with credentials, but those with concern. Children are the common denominator of mankind, and their welfare is the common concern of us all. That's a quote from Danny Kay, the Goodwill Ambassador to UNICEF. For those of you who mentor Strive students or other programs, thank you for making that important contribution in these children's lives. The race of man is suffering, and I can hear them moan because nobody can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone. Nobody can make it out here alone. Think of our work with Fast for Hope and the many global grants we continue to support and the difference that continues to make in their lives. And Frank's quote is a favorite, is equally important. No one ever became poor by giving to others. And in honor of E.E. Cummings, the poet who always wrote in lowercase, a day without laughter is a wasted day. We don't have wasted days in Rotary, but I found a cartoon that I had on my file in my office. It's a Peanuts cartoon and it is Linus, Charlie Brown, and Lucy. And Linus says, I hate to have a job where I had to get up early in the morning. And Charlie Brown says, I hate to have a job where you stayed in that same place all day. And Lucy, bless her heart, I'd hate to have a job where you had to be nice to everybody. So we've now had a laugh. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Carol. All right. Terry Rummins has some announcement for us about World Without Orphans project.
Okay. Audrey, I don't know if you have the two slides up that I sent.
Yep, Amber's pulling those up right now.
Perfect. Okay, I'm only going to take a minute. I'm part of the Risers group, and we've decided to engage on a project that Judy O'Fallon knows about, and she can join in here as well, dealing with the World Without Orphans. And I don't know how many of you know some of the latest information about this horrific problem, but there's 150 million orphans around the world, and just with COVID, there's been over 1 million that's increased since COVID. Most recently, one of the people who's leading the World Without Orphans, Susan Hillis, who's a senior researcher at the CDC, just published an article in Lancet highlighting this. It was brought up on NPR and in the New York Times. Maybe many of you heard her speak about this worsening problem. It's estimated that about 1 billion children, or approximately 1 out of every 2 children, experience some type of abuse as a result of being neglected or just flat out abused. And so back in 2010, as Susan was part of the group that was from the CDC that was working in Ukraine, they joined forces with a number of faith-based organizations to start looking at this severe problem that had been going under the radar. and develop the world without orphans. There are 38 countries now involved and 47 more countries that are in the process of joining. And with this, they have begun to really try and deal with the pain that these children have been suffering for many years, staying in situations where they were neglected or abused, or even getting worse, where they were sold for sex trafficking. So this is a huge problem. Today, the World Without Orphans has expanded greatly to not just be faith-based organizations, but they're working with the communities. Many of the Rotary groups around the world, because the biggest problems, number one is in Asia, number two is in Africa, number three is in Central and South America. They have groups in all of these areas, and probably some of you have seen that there's 150,000 orphans right now that are struggling in the United States, and they're getting ready to start moving in and trying to help with the problem that's even in the US right now. So they're trying to build relationships with communities, and they presented to our Rotary group last year, and we decided then to start a project with them and trying to raise $25,000 to help them with the educational processes that they do to people who are adopting these children, or people that are working in orphanages that are caring for these kids in a number of different other ways. So as you can see from the second slide that I provided to Audrey, is that we do have that budget of $25,000. We've raised about a good portion of it, but we still are $7,000 short. Your group has been wonderful of participating with the risers in trying to move this forward. But what we've decided to do is go back to all the clubs, and a number of individuals are also contributing. And so we just thought, if there's anybody in your group that is also interested in contributing and can do it in the name of Rotary, aside from just the Thursday Club, then we would really appreciate that. We're just $7,000 short of meeting this need. So that's all I wanted to do, is just mention, if there's anybody that's interested, please feel free to contact me. Obviously, Judy knows something, Fallon knows something about this and can tell you a little bit more. Mike Newman, Joanne Rosner are very involved with this, as well as is Nick Reithmeyer. So any of us would be more than willing to share more information or answer any questions that you might have, and would really welcome your participation. Thank you, Audrey.
Thank you, Terry. So if someone wants to send a check, what should they do?
Contact one of us, and we can get you all the information. So you can feel free to give them my email address, or Joanne's, or Mike's, any of us.
Okay.
And we'd be happy to help.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Patricia. Oh, sorry, I'm Patricia. I can't see from my angle. Is Patricia on there, please?
I don't see her here.
Not unless there's more than we can see.
Okay. All right. Well, if she jumps on, let me know. Chris Colby will introduce our visitors and guests.
Good afternoon, everyone. I believe, unless we have somebody on Zoom that is a guest other than our speaker and Terry, is there anyone else? If so, unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Okay, I don't hear anybody. And so our only other guest today is Robert, our permanent guest. I guess. We don't have a category for you yet, but we probably should come up with one. And I hope you can find a job so that you can join us.
I had a good interview this week. So.
Well, that's good. That's incredible. Is there anything we need to do to help move that along?
Yes, we're going to give him an application.
There you go. Well, so welcome, Robert, and everyone have a good rest of the week. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah. Appreciate it. Birthdays and anniversaries. So on October 10th, Terry Sorensen and Vicki Allen. Steve Stenhag on October 11th. Joel Hawk on October 18th. Marilyn Stewart on October 22nd. And Pam Meyer on October 23rd. And anniversaries, we have Lauren Anderson at 1 year, Julie Brock at 2 years, Chuck Steidinger at 8 years, Kathy Lassard at 12, Kelly Engler, 12 years, Bora Christensen at 14, Bob Mueller at 15, and Janice Domke at 17 years. Let's celebrate these birthdays and anniversaries. Tamsin, I'll have you talk about the Holiday Classic.
My favorite topic. I'm very excited to say that the Holiday Classic is just over 2 months away and planning is in full gear. So one, I need all of you to mark your calendar. December 27th and 28th are the dates for the Classic this year. And as you know, just like every year, we need lots and lots and lots of volunteers to make the event happen. We are going to start recruiting for volunteers, hopefully very soon. They will come out via email. So please, please, please read that email and don't just hit the little delete button. That's easy to do because we're going to need to fill up all of our spots. With that being said, last year the event was canceled, but the year before that was the first year that we did tie volunteer hours per club to dollars that come back to the club from the proceeds of the Classic. And the Thursday Club did not get our full funds because we did not fill our allotted slots. So let's not do that again. And let's make sure to fill our share of the slots, which is more because we're the biggest club, but please help me fill the slot. So please don't delete our email when it comes through. Second, each year we ask the Rotarians to support the Classic financially. We ask you to purchase 2 passes. And when you purchase the 2 passes, you can use them. You can donate them to whoever you want to donate them to. You can leave them sort of as a will call at the event. If someone wants to use your tickets, you can direct them to the tickets sales people to pick up those tickets. But we do ask that each club member financially contributes $50 for 2 tickets to the event, 2 day passes to the event. And then in return, we put your name in the program recognizing your donation to the event. So watch for that email as well. And please make that payment to the club to help support the organization and the grants that go back out to our programs.
When did you say the dates were?
December 27th and 28th. I lied. 28th and 29th. It's on my birthday. I almost forgot. 28th and 29th. It's a Tuesday and a Wednesday. It's on my birthday every year. Yes, Jill, we have a question.
Yes, I have a question. So I feel like I remember that $50 was automatically applied to my account. Is that true?
That is not true.
Oh, okay.
We've had lots of discussions about how this has happened without our friend Elizabeth.
Have a link then to pay it.
Yeah, without our friend Elizabeth here, we've been digging in the archives trying to figure out how we've done it in the past. And I think we've determined that none of the clubs included in their dues anymore. Maybe that happened way in the past, but it has not happened in recent history. So it's not a part of dues, but it will come as a separate invoice from Club Runner that Amber will send out probably the beginning of November. So separate than anything that's been done already. And it will come out in the beginning of November. Any other questions?
How many volunteer slots do we have?
That's a preliminary question and I don't have that total. But I do have the advice of sign up early if you like to specific shift, because the late night shifts, Mark Drips fills for us at the last minute, and we don't want to have to make Mark do that this year.
I can do it again.
Oh, thanks, Mark.
Still sign up early.
Yeah, sign up early so I don't have to hound you. So what will happen is we'll open up the registration for a certain amount of time, call it a week or 2, and we'll have some sort of allotment towards our club and to each club. And then after that time period is up, it will get opened up to everyone. So if we don't speak for our spots right away and the other clubs take them and we don't get our certain number of hours that we need to fulfill, we may not get our funding for as much as we could get. Yes, Mark Drips.
And we're doing the program again this year, correct?
Yeah.
So is there any advertisers, businesses that want to get into it?
I'm guessing you've already heard from me, but if you haven't,
Really?
oh yeah. But yes, as Mark said, if you have a business and you would like to be a sponsor or advertiser for the event, I would love to help you out with that. Send me any kind of note, text message, Facebook message, anything, and I will get you the information.
just an update, we have the outreach. I did a total. We're up to like $18,000 in committed sponsorships and advertisers so far for the year, for this year. 2 years ago, we had about $15,000 in sponsors and advertisers. So we're tracking above where we were a couple of years ago, which I'm super, super excited about. Plus we have our presented by sponsor too. Plus we have our Rotarian contribution. So it should be a good year as long as we can fill the seats. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tamsin. I did hear from Mike Becker, and they still need some mentors, especially at the Alternative Learning Center. And they need both women and men. So if, please consider being a mentor or recruiting someone you know.
Can I have another comment?
Yeah.
I forgot something. We are going to have a clothing store. I'm working on a clothing store. Just ask Mark about the logo. That's what made me remember it. So that will come out in an email too. It might just be holiday classic wear or maybe non-specific holiday classic wear too. But we're going to have an apparel store. So watch for that in case you're in need of any apparel, holiday classic apparel.
Okay, so well, for anybody who couldn't hear that online, there will be an apparel store coming out for the holiday classic.
It'll just have, I don't know, I haven't seen the items yet. I'm partnering with Full Court Custom Apparel. They're friends of mine in Stewartville. It'll just be an online store that you go and look and see what you like. Pick the color, pick the size, they ship it to you, Rotary's not involved, but they give 10% back.
And it would be great to have some just regular Rotary options as well.
Noted, that has been asked before, so yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Our last White Oaks Park pickup of the season is on October 20th. And Colin, would you like to make an announcement about bowling?
I nominate Robert Flanders
Yes, that's your new position.
as a mentor for Stride. Robert sailed with me earlier this year, so anyone who sails with me gets a ribbing, and he's pretty good at ribbing people also. So that's, and some of the things he says, I cannot repeat at this meeting. But Robert is a great guy, and I hope he does get a job so he can join Rotary and participate. When I was president, I used to get to these meetings early and leave late. And now that I'm not president, I get to these meetings late and I have to leave early. And I seem to always sit at the table on my own. So I just, so a week ago last Friday, I took my sailboat out of the water. A very sad day for a sailor. And maybe some of you were closing up your cabins and other things like that. So on Sunday, October 24th, I can no longer sail, so I can bowl. And I hope you will join us and come and support Striking Out Polio. So Sunday, the 24th of October, 1 to 3 p.m., we've held 5 lanes at Velocity, which is on North Broadway. It's a 3-club initiative, and I've been sending lots of emails to 3 clubs and Laurie, bless her soul, for printing this. So, and the moccasin flower that came out yesterday. Does everyone here receive that? I'm assuming every Rotarian in our club receives that. So the information is on there. Obviously, it's to support polio or the eradication of polio. Can you tell me what are the 2 countries where polio does still exist? Yes, Afghanistan and Pakistan. So it's almost been eliminated, and we're working on contribution sheets. I know you can go online. I know you're receiving emails from Chicago and Rotary International, but we're also trying to make it next Thursday. Do we have a regular meeting? I'm not here.
Small groups next Thursday.
Small groups next Thursday. So we've got to work on a way to get your money to the Rotary Foundation, and that's the next step. But if you come and bowl on that day with your family and friends, we'll definitely be taking collections, and yes, you can write out checks or talk to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yep, but if you want to make sure the rest of us who can't be there can still donate, that would be great. Thank you, Colin. I appreciate you taking the lead on this. Next week, we do have our new iteration of small group third Thursday. And we have 4 options for next week. And we're going to be asking you to sign up. There will be a sign up. So as you recall, there are four ways to get involved next week. The service project is creating homemade cards for Ronald McDonald House. They can be thank you cards, get well, thinking of you, sympathy, or congratulations card. Each person who wants to do that will bring your own paper, markers, whatever, crayons, stickers, and guests will meet at the Centerstone Hotel in the Magnolia Room. And you can bring your own lunch or you can order from Twigs. For the Learning Affinity Group, actually, I'll be leading a session on the Boundary Waters. So I'll bring my favorite gear and talk about planning a trip to the Boundary Waters. And if the weather is nice, we'll meet at Cascade Lake and you'll get to go in the water in my canoe.
Your new canoe?
Yeah.
Oh.
Next week?
This is next week.
This would be nice.
It says that it's still going to be relatively warm. So hopefully, yeah.
Where at Cascade Lake?
So we'll just meet it. There's a pavilion there. We'll just meet there.
Behind Shorewood?
Yeah, behind Shorewood. Yeah, yeah. So if you're interested in that, sign up. You can bring a bag lunch. I'll have some camping appropriate food that I dehydrate my own food for going up there. So I'll bring some of that to try, but I won't have enough. I won't actually make a whole meal. So
A whole dehydrated meal.
You do cook it and rehydrate it.
Oh.
So there will be the third option will be a virtual option. Janine Gagnes will be leading the virtual option with the topic of the danger of a single story. And then the social option, Vicki Allen and Terry Sorensen will be hosting that. They'll be hosting an Oktoberfest event from 4:30 to 6:30 next Thursday evening. Each person will bring a bottle of wine or a 4-pack of beer for tasting. Vicki will provide the tasting glasses and the appetizers. So you have lots of choices for next Thursday. I hope you have fun deciding which one you want to do.
Can we go to 2?
Sure. Yeah, as long as they're not at the exact same time. So, yeah. Okay. And Jim Sloan will give our member highlight today.
Yep, come on up, Jim.
Oh, I have another question.
Yeah.
When does the sign up come out?
Watch your email.
Super helpful. Thank you.
So,
Sweetie, I got my hands a little full with all the sign up creating, so I will do it ASAP.
I
Ma'am.
don't want to miss out on a limited opportunity.
Right, I hear ya.
I was born one morning when the sun didn't shine. I picked up my shovel and I walked to the mine, and I'm still shoveling. Actually, I was born in New York City a long time ago. I had great parents. Still appreciate that. My father was with the Mack Truck Company. He was a great salesman. And he finally got promoted to branch manager in Des Moines, Iowa, when I was about 6 years old. I learned to pronounce it correctly. 4 years later, he got promoted again, this time to the Chicago branch. And so we moved there, and we lived in Western Springs, which is a western suburb. I finished grade school there and went to high school. I wanted to be an actuary. University of Wisconsin offered a program in actuarial science, so I went there, became a badger. Except after 2 years, I found out that I really couldn't do the math required. So I graduated with a business degree. The Army then was drafting people. I didn't want to get drafted, so I went in the ROTC program, which was actually required for the first 2 years, and then stayed on for 2 more and graduated as a second lieutenant. Wow, what fun. So I went in for 6 months in October after I graduated, went to a couple of lovely places, and then I got out in April. And in the first week I was out, I got a job with IBM and I got engaged to my future wife, Judy. That was the best thing I did in college, was find my wife to be. We have 3 children. We didn't get married for a year. We have 3 children. I raised 2 lawyers. I apologize for that. And the other son lives in Washington, D.C., where he works for FAA, and he is an outer space policy analyst. Wow. He was actually here a few years ago and talked to us. Anybody remember that? All right, there's one anyway. Okay, well, after I started with IBM, IBM then was in the punch card business and then big computers. So I learned how to install punch cards for various customers, got them going, and then worked on some computers. After a couple of years, I made salesman. I was out in the field trying to sell IBM products. I wasn't very good at it, however. And so after a while, I went back into the techie business. I taught for a while, and then I was a coordinator for a new machine that they announced. It was the 360 Model 20. At that point in time, it only read punch cards and punched punch cards, but it was very successful. Excuse me. Then after a while, they added tapes and disk drives to it, and it became much more complicated. I was out on the road teaching how to get it installed, what to do about it, how to program it, that kind of stuff. Well, that connected me with the local place where it was made, which was at the end of the earth, a place called Rochester, Minnesota. And so after a couple of years, a while, we moved my family to the end of the earth, and I went to work there as a software planner. That was fun. I worked there for quite a while, probably almost 20 years. And it was still a good job. I was out speaking to various customer groups and conferences and got pretty well known in the industry. So in the early 80s, I kind of retired and started my own company. I had to pick a good name, so I chose Jim Sloan Inc. to get going on it. That was a good thing. We had a lot of business, and when I retired, I went into the software business myself and started to do tools and utilities for the system. And I was still out on the speaking circuit having a good time. That business did very well. Then in the early 80s, I decided I would retire from all of that stuff. And so I sold the business to some friends of mine and decided on a long-term payout. And so by golly, I am still getting paid by this company that's still selling the product. It's still doing well. Life is really good. Till about last year, I started to get some fainting spells. And then on Christmas Eve, I fainted at the top of the basement stairs and went all the way to the bottom. I was out for quite a while. They put a pacemaker into my heart because I was losing consciousness for quite a while. And since then, I have not fainted since, thank goodness. But I was still recovering for quite a while, didn't go to Rotary for a long time. But I came back, and it was good to see all the friends again that were still here. I'm still doing kind of recovering. My memory got lost somewhere on the floor of the basement somehow. It was not easy. Anyway, I'm still doing pretty good. I saw a program the other day that said, what does it take to live a long life? What's the best solution? And it turns out that after they interviewed a lot of people and decided what they had to say, was the best thing to live a long life was not exercise. It was not eating right. It was being social, being social. And so when you come here to Rotary, you can be social and have a good time. Long life ahead of you. Long life for Rotary. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. That was wonderful. Mark your calendars for November 4th. We'll be in person back here at the Country Club for a committee fair. So our first Thursdays will become committee work time, but we're kicking off that change by giving everyone an opportunity to learn more about the different committees they're able to join. So that will be our first Thursday in November, and that will be at a regular noon time. Are there any other announcements before we kick off the program?
Can I ask Jim Sloan a question?
Sure.
Maybe you can repeat it?
Okay.
In layman's terms, can you just tell me, what does a punch card do? Yes, I've seen the movie Hidden Figures and I've seen
What do
the punch.
punch cards do?
Yeah, what's the,
Well, you punch the information into the card.
yeah,
There's a special machine that punched the holes and recorded your name and their address and all that kind of stuff, whatever they were doing.
but was that programming the card? Is that how I'm kind of thinking that's what it?
Well, sometimes, most of those were wired machines. You had a panel where you put wires in,
Yeah.
said what you wanted to do. This is where I want to print this name.
Okay.
When I send them the bill.
Maybe an answer to your question, you want to know what a punch card does.
Yeah.
The big ones had 80 columns. That's 80 characters of information. It's like typing in 80
Yeah.
characters. That's all. it
Yeah,
is.
so there were characters of information on the punch cards.
Yeah, those holes.
Those holes were those.
were codes.
All right, well,
And then the great innovation from my in Rochester was the little card, which had 96
It
columns.
had more holes.
Yeah, yeah, that was a fantastic advancement if you can relate to that. That's 80 to 96, and big cars, the little guys.
Do you have any hanging chads on those punch cards?
Whatever. That only happened before.
All right. Thanks to the support of over 600 Rotary clubs worldwide, the Guatemala Literacy Project offers educational programs to over 200,000 students in Guatemala, working to break the cycle of poverty through education. Christi Eisenberg is a longtime advocate for Rotary's project work in Guatemala and has been involved with our parent organization, Cooperative for Education, since the early 2000s. Christi has traveled to Guatemala before, so she has great insight into the Guatemala Literacy Project's need for support and kindly volunteered to join our ambassadors team last year. Turning it over to you, Christi.
Great, thank you. I'm going to share some slides, so bear with me a moment while I get them up. Hang on, sorry about that. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yep, yes, we can.
Okay, fantastic. So hang on, I'm trying to get all your faces somewhere where I can still see my screen. Okay, very good. So I just really wanted to thank you all so much for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to tell you about an amazing Rotary scholarship program called RISE. RISE is part of the Guatemalan Literacy Project, which some of you might have heard about. We've been around for a while. The Guatemalan Literacy Project, or GLP, is a partnership between Rotary clubs and Cooperative for Education to promote literacy in Guatemala, and we've been at it for 24 years. So let me give you a little background about myself and the RISE program. You can see me there in the early 2000s with my husband, and on my left was the first student that we ever sponsored for an educational scholarship in Guatemala. And I was not there with Cooperative for Education. I was there with a different NGO, but what both those the RISE scholarship program and that NGO have in common is that they allow you to meet, if you go to Guatemala, to meet your student. They allow you to correspond with your scholarship student. And it's just an incredible experience to sponsor a child, to be able to talk to them, have a relationship with them, share letters, and really watch them as they grow, and to see your money at work very really. So it's just very special. And I wanted to share that with you. And so let me go on more about the GLP and the RISE program. So the GLP is a global network of Rotaries, Rotary clubs, and districts fighting literacy in Guatemala. The GLP is one of the largest grassroots, multi-club, multi-district projects in Rotary. And over the past 20 years, the project has included 600 plus Rotary clubs, 80 plus districts, 8 countries, 46 US states, and 8 countries. So I ask you, can a small group of Rotarians change the world? Is that possible? Well, as you know, of course, the answer is yes, by working with other Rotarians. So our power as Rotarians is our collective power. If we work together, if we combine our time, our talent, our treasure, we can truly change the world. So here's what Rotarians have accomplished working together in Guatemala for the past 24 years. 225,500 students have benefited, enough to fill your average baseball stadium 5 times over. There are 207 textbook projects, which means there are 200 schools that now have textbooks that didn't have them before we got involved. There are 94 Sparks reading programs, which are designed to help the teachers learn how to teach the kids to read better, faster, earlier, and to provide storybooks, library type books for students in 1st through 6th grade. There are 53 computer centers educating 14,000 kids every school day. There are 731 students on scholarship in the RISE program. When the GLP started in 1996, 2 out of every 3 people in rural areas couldn't read or write. Today, it's just 1 out of every 3. Working with others, Rotarians have helped reduce the rate of illiteracy by 50%. Yes, we still have a long way to go, but we are making tremendous progress and changing Guatemala. And we'd really like you to join us. So now let's focus on just the RISE program. Our 731 scholarship recipients are spread between 16 communities just west of Guatemala City. Have any of you ever been to Guatemala? And I can't see if you have a raise of hands, but if you have, you'll know it's just a gorgeous country, just gorgeous. The nature is. What's the sad part is the incredible, incredible poverty that's there. So at any rate, speaking of people who have traveled to see our world in Guatemala, does anybody recognize this guy? Hint, he's a former president of Rotary International. Yep, that's Ian Reesley. He was president in 2017, 2018, and he came to Guatemala and visited the GLP. He and his wife, Juliet, are surrounded by RISE scholarship recipients. As you know, literacy and basic education through secondary school are key focus areas of Rotary International, and we have a long history of funding scholarships. So why Guatemala, you may ask? Why all of the attention to this part of the world? Guatemala is an island of illiteracy. While neighboring countries have progressed educationally, like Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala has been left behind. It's the most illiterate place in the Western Hemisphere. It has a population of about 17 million. 40% of those are indigenous Guatemalans. Rural Guatemala is simply the poorest, least educated place in the Western Hemisphere. 80% of rural Guatemalans live in poverty. A third of Guatemalan adults can't read or write. Nearly 70% of children are pulled out of school by the 7th grade because their parents can't afford to continue their education. These conditions fuel high rates of migration northward. As we speak, unaccompanied children from Guatemala are fleeing to our southern borders. Guatemala is now the largest source country for undocumented migration in the United States. It recently passed Mexico, which is 10 times larger in population. I believe that no one should have to migrate to survive. And I think most Rotarians can agree on the benefits of creating opportunities for people in their home countries. So what's our solution? Education. We have thousands of kids standing on that 6th grade cliff. They've finished grade school, but their parents can't afford to continue their education. But where we need to get them is up here to 12 full years of education, ending in graduation from high school. And we know from studies that if we can get them this far, if we can get them 12 years, we're very likely to get them out of poverty. But there's this huge gap, and in comes RISE, bridging this gap with education. RISE provides 6 more critical years of education, getting students all the way to the goal, high school graduation, and that life beyond poverty. But RISE is more than just a scholarship. It's a robust youth development program that includes training in job skills, life skills, and community service. Research shows that soft skills are even more important than hard skills for success in life. This is a RISE scholar learning how to prepare a resume and interview effectively for a job. If you ask a student in rural Guatemala what they want to be when they grow up, most will say a teacher, because that's often the only professional person that they ever see. They never see accountants, architects, engineers in their villages. In RISE, we set up career panels where local Rotarians tell them about their occupations. I'm an architect, I'm an accountant, I'm a businessman, and this is what my career is all about. RISE scholars get to ask questions and then learn about those careers. The RISE programs also offer workshops on topics such as financial education, self-esteem, human rights, leadership, teamwork. RISE scholars learn to identify and present solutions to problems in their own communities. And this wouldn't be a Rotary project if students didn't learn to give back. They design their own community service activities to, to benefit those in need. This is one of the RISE scholars giving a food bag to a man in need in her community. This truly embodies service above self. This program has a huge ripple effect. Educating a child changes their family, changing their family changes communities, changing communities changes Guatemala, and changing Guatemala can help change the world. So I'd like to tell you a story about a RISE scholar. This is Claudia. When she was 11 years old, she faced a bleak future, expecting to drop out of school after 6th grade and help her mother embroider and sell handicrafts to pay her sister's primary school expenses. With 3 younger sisters, there wasn't enough money left over to send Claudia to middle school. And her father was very stingy with the majority of the family's income. But 8 years ago, Cooperative for Education's RISE program gave Claudia a chance for a different future. Instead of dropping out, Claudia went on to middle school and discovered that she had a knack for numbers thanks to the Cooperative for Education's textbooks and computers at her school. In 2016, she graduated as an accounting secretary with a licensure in computing. She's now working at a company in San Lucas that does real estate surveying, earning a professional income and planning to continue her education in college to become an auditor. Claudia's scholarship has changed her sisters' lives too. Now that her dad sees everything Claudia has achieved, he's changed his mind about the value of education and has started offering more support to his daughters. Let me share you one more story about Anselma. Anselma was a shy sixth grader, and like so many thousands of children like her, she was standing at that edge of the cliff on the verge of dropping out of school. But she was such a bright and promising girl, and she desperately wanted to continue her education. We offered her that golden ticket, a scholarship for junior high and high school. Her dad said, "No, I only had 3 years of education. You already had 6. I got your older brothers I'm trying to educate. We need your work here on the farm. And besides, you're a girl. Girls don't get educated around here." Her teacher talked to him. Her mom talked to him. Finally, they convinced him to let her accept the scholarship. So we put her in a RISE scholarship to bridge her from 6th grade to graduation from high school. And here she is 15 years later. I love this photo because she's pictured with her mom and her mom's mom, 3 generations. Mom and grandma show the track Anselma was on had Rotary not intervened. Grandma, completely illiterate, signs her name with a thumbprint and desperately poor. Mom, completely illiterate and desperately poor. Anselma, college graduate, solidly middle class, and now making 4 times more than her dad. Yeah, he's now a believer. In just 1 generation, with just a bunch of Rotarians working together, we've broken the cycle of poverty in this family through education. But the benefits don't end there. Now Anselma herself is married and has a daughter, Abigail. Abigail will never need a scholarship from Rotary. Why? Because her parents are now middle class and they can afford to educate her. Again, RISE is breaking the cycle. The key truly is getting these students to graduation. Before the RISE program, 1 in 10 graduate high school, but within the RISE program, 8 in 10 will graduate. 87% of graduates got jobs or continue their education. Over half fund education of younger siblings. 1 scholarship thus becomes many. 100% get out of the extreme poverty like you saw in some of those earlier photos. So why now? RISE scholarships are needed more than ever. Economy. Many families falling from poverty into absolute extreme poverty, driving migration. Help is needed now. And here's where we are, the blue bar, about 750 scholarships. And here's the goal, 1,500 scholarships to respond to the devastation of COVID-19 and beyond. Yep, we need at least 750 more. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I'm putting it out there to my fellow Rotarians. Guatemala needs 750 scholarships. I wanted to ask you or your club if you would consider providing 1. Just think about it for a minute, and then I'll tell you how easy it is. But just don't take our word for it. Here are powerful words from other Rotarians. RISE is a perfect club project. This project has really lit our club on fire. And Jim Hunt went on to say, we went from 1 or 2 members supporting an international service project to everyone in the club supporting it. And then, well, here's another trivia Rotary trivia question. Anybody know who the woman is in the white dress? Well, she's the first woman to be named International President of Rotary International for 2020 to 2023. Yep, that's Jennifer Jones. And as you can see, she said, this is the gift that the GLP has created, and I'm happy to be part of the journey. So it's easy to help. It takes 8 people willing to give $10 a month for a year, less than a weekly cup of Starbucks. A champion or somebody willing to collect from those 8 other members to send the money in every month. Another amazing way to get involved to make it possible for a single student to go to school and watch their progress. For $80 a month or $960 a year, you fully fund one of our RISE students' education, tuition, books, workshops, etc., and even get to send letters back and forth to them. We actually have 18 Rotary clubs that sponsor kids' education, and it's growing. Anyway, other ways to give include spreading the word with fellow Rotarians about our work, joining our email list to get project email updates, fully or partially sponsoring a RISE Scholar, attending our annual Fall Festival fundraiser. It's this Saturday and it's free and it's online. Or travel to Guatemala with us on a Rotary service trip when COVID allows. Or contribute to the global grant and maybe receive DDF and RTF matching funds. So I want each of you to take a pencil, pen, your phone, whatever, and jot down this phone number. Because if you ever want information about how to help in these endeavors, all you need to do is text your name and your email to this phone number. So here it is, 859-429-2776. So did you get that? All right. So again, I just wanted to say how terribly grateful I am that you listened today, and know that without Rotary's support, our project would not be the success that it is today. And I have one more thing to tell you before I entertain questions. At the bottom of this the blue banner at the bottom right, if you ever want to go to the website to learn more, it's guatemalaliteracy.org. Again, guatemalaliteracy.org. So let me stop sharing and then I can get any questions you might have. Okay, questions?
Oh, good. Hold on. Sorry. Oh, I was gonna say that I'm a little small. You lady. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Still walking funny from the gym yesterday.
Thank you. Question is, where are you located? What club? And secondly, what sort of guidance, support do you receive from Rotary International since you're participating in one of the 6?
Okay, so could you hear that, Christi?
I had a little trouble.
So he's asking what club you belong to first.
Okay, I'm between clubs, quite honestly. I was a member. I'm down in the Villages, Florida now, and I was a member of the club in the Villages, Florida, and I didn't renew it because I'm opting to. I'm going to sign online with an email club, I think, because that just works better for me, and I'm still not going indoors, and they're not doing that anymore. So I need to switch to an e-club, but nonetheless, the Cooperative for Education is CEO is a member of a Rotary Club in Cincinnati. Their Cooperative for Education is located in Cincinnati. The global grants are sponsored by a club out of Arizona, whose name escapes me at the moment, and then also a club in Guatemala. So there are a couple of Rotary clubs in Guatemala who are very, very active in this whole program as well, probably more than a couple, but anyway. So I don't know, what was there, was some other part of that question I think I failed to answer. What kind of support? And I didn't get the rest of it.
I'm particularly interested in what kind of support or guidance you might be receiving from Rotary International, as opposed to just being a grant that the clubs that you mentioned would be implementing.
I know that I'm not well versed in exactly how all the finances work, but I can tell you approximately half of Cooperative for Education's budget comes from Rotary through the GLP and the global grants. So that's pretty amazing, really.
Yeah.
Judith, you have a question?
No, I wanted to say that, you know, as a member of our district grants committee, I know that almost I think about every year, our district does give some district DDF to this project, but it has to be triggered by a club in the district. So every year it moves around, but clubs in our district will in essence sponsor a request for DDF to be given to this project. Every year this project has been on the order of $200,000 a year for the Guatemala, and the various clubs are asking for like $5,000 of DDF to be given to that project, and they can pick up, I think because it is a global grant, I believe it gets matched by Rotary International, but I'm not sure, but I think that's what it is happening. So they're picking up maybe $10,000 out of here, or 30. So, and we could do the same thing. Now this year, there are 2 clubs in the district that have asked for DDF to be given to this project. I know that. So there won't be any more DDF until a year from now. But if we wanted to do that, we could put in a request for for an amount of it. And of course, then the clubs themselves are also giving. So it gets to be a fairly nice little pot of money that goes to this project. And it is so successful. It has done so well with what they've done that there's no problem. Every year there are clubs that want to sponsor it. It's a very, very wonderful way to help internationally.
I think one of the things that you need to understand is that there are only certain things that global grants will cover. So they cover the textbooks, because once we buy a set of textbooks, or Rotary funds a set of textbooks that goes to a school, that's sustainable, because the students in the schools then rent them year after they don't call it rent, but that's essentially, they pay a fee for the use of those textbooks year after year after year, and then by about the time the textbooks are paid for, they're falling apart, and then they can use the money that they've gathered and get a new set of textbooks. So those kind of things are covered. They do that with the computers as well. So those kind of projects are covered by the global grants. The scholarships are not covered by global grants, so they have to be outright donations. Thank you.
Good. Thank you for clarifying that.
No problem. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Christy. As a thank you for your presentation, a gift will be given to the Community Health Services, Inc. Yeah, so thank you very much. As we close out today, there are still a few lunches. So if somebody wants, I think we sell them at half price at the end of the meal. If you want to take one for $10, You can give the money to John. As we close out today, I want to give thanks to all who assisted. Joel Hawk, our greeter, Merlin Rickliff for leading us in the 4-way test, Chris Colby for introducing visitors, John Woodruff for helping at the visitors table and being our sergeant of arms, Carol Weigel, who provided the reflection, and a special thanks to our speaker, Christi Eisenberg. Thank you all. Serve to change lives.